Hey, what's going on, everybody? Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green, here with the Man Child Show with Boy Green Digital. We got a fun show for you guys today, and it's brought to you by our friends over at Crest Cadillac. And it's time to talk all things New York Yankees. And when it's time to talk Yankees, there's only one signal that I send out into the sky and waiting to hear if our hero will come. That is none other than Emmanuel Berbari. He's the Yankees postgame host on WFAN, baby. Let's bring him on. What's going on, Emmanuel?
Well, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me. I always appreciate seeing you, man.
Well, before we get started, it's just me and you. There's no one else here in the room, but my digital partner, Jim the Man-Child Lurch, he wanted me to tell you something, Emmanuel, and I don't know if you know what this is, but he wanted me to ask you something. First off, before I ask you the question, I just need to confirm that, Emmanuel, you're a product of Fordham University. Is that correct?
I am, and I actually have the, let's see if I could clear. Wow.
Okay, look at this.
There's the Fordham Rams logo that I'm wearing right now. So, yes, Fordham University product.
So Jim Lurch wanted me to ask you, who is the better broadcasting school, Fordham or Syracuse? He wanted to make sure I said that and asked you that immediately right off the bat, because apparently you guys have argued about that in the past. So any thoughts there?
We have argued about that in the past, and my very unbiased opinion. I have
Sure.
no
Yeah.
stake in this game. I didn't go to either school, clearly.
Obviously. Yeah.
Fordham and WFUV, the radio station, which has produced numerous of my role models and some of the people I'm fortunate enough to know to this day, easily takes the cake over Syracuse, but that's a very unbiased opinion.
Clearly unbiased. Okay. And I appreciate you saying that, because that's important for the audience to know exactly where you stand on certain issues. So thank you for bringing that up, Emmanuel. And I'll just say this before we get into all the Yankees talk, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I mentioned it, your role as the Yankees post-game host on WFAN, but I've seen you've been doing a little bit more than the post-game action some of this season, Emmanuel. Can you tell our viewers all about it and what that experience has meant to you?
Yeah, it's meant the world joining the radio team a couple of years ago in a part-time capacity and filling in wherever I could, and that leading to some post-game shows and then some opportunities to fill in on games and call play-by-play has been, it's been everything. As someone who grew up a Yankee fan, you're happy and you're thrilled you understand that there aren't that many chances to work on a major league broadcast, but let alone for the team you grew up rooting for. And to me, and I think to many, the most iconic franchise in sports. And that means everything to me. And yeah, between that and some of the TV opportunities, it's been a very busy season, but you're covering baseball every day. And that's just been a privilege and a dream to cover any baseball team, but particularly the one you grew up rooting for.
Yeah, it has been cool seeing radio. Then I'm like TV, and so I'm like, is that Emmanuel Berbari on my tube on the television? What's going on here? So you're a superstar. I'm glad you still remember me, pal. And let's try to keep that going moving forward here. We've got a lot of things to get into. The trade deadline's right around the corner. If you could sort of encapsulate the first half of the season for the New York Yankees, how would you do so?
Yeah, I would categorize it into, I can't even say two halves. The first 2 months were outstanding on a lot of levels, especially considering some of the injuries that plagued them before the season. You're dealing with no Garrett Cole for the year,
Right.
no Giancarlo Stanton for the first couple of months, no Luis Seal up until now, where he might play a role within the next couple of weeks. And if you had told anybody that those first couple of months they would get off to the roaring start they did and build a comfortable 8-game divisional lead, the starting pitching would have a stretch of 6 weeks where it's seemingly never allowed to run, and the bullpen would be dynamite outside of the early struggles from Devin Williams, and the lineup would be the best in baseball for a couple of months. I think everybody would have signed for that in a heartbeat. But then this last month in particular, and I look at after they left Kansas City in the middle of June and went to Boston, that late Thursday night when they went to Boston, got swept at Fenway Park, and the last month that has followed has not been anywhere close to their expectations or anybody's expectations. And that's how I divide the season. The first 2.5 months, and the last month of baseball we've seen. And what's a little disconcerting about the last month of baseball we've seen, this team had improved in intangible ways from last year. They had shored up their defense. They had shored up their base running. They were very fundamentally sound. The last month, they have not been any of those things. And that's something that needs to right itself moving forward, or else you're going to look at a very similar, and not that winning the pennant is a bad result, but they're not going to be the last team standing this year if they're not fundamentally sound. And we haven't seen that the last month.
I assume this is off camera, the mystery van. So, okay, Emmanuel, yeah, push the glasses up to the bridge at the top of the nose here. Here it is. Here's the important thing. Who is the real Yankees? You're ripping off the mask. You're like, oh my God, it's this. Who's the real Yankees? The first half of that first half or what we've seen most recently? Emmanuel Berbari?
I think it's anybody's guess. I look at June of last year, middle of
Mhm.
July of last year, and it would have been very easy at that point to say that was more of the representation of what the Yankees were. But things change, moves
Mhm.
happen. You also aren't going to play. I remember last year when they went, I think 11-23 over a 34 game stretch, and that was the same as the White Sox, who ended up the worst team in baseball history
Oh,
last year
God.
over that same stretch. Of course, they were never going to be the White Sox. So
Right.
even if they don't recover, I think there's a
Uh-huh.
playoff team. I think
Okay.
that's their floor. I think they will
Sure.
make the postseason, but they're shooting higher than that. They're aiming
Of
higher than
course.
that. They want to be a World Series team. They want to be back in the World Series. So I would say it's a mixture. There are some clear flaws on this team, but they're a very good team when all is said and done. I think a lot is going to be determined by which names we see walking through that door in a week's time. Is it going to be a couple pitchers at the pitching depth? Are they going to address the left side of the infield, which has plagued them and plagued them as we're speaking right now? Last night in Toronto, once again, the left side of the infield plagued them, and you could argue lost them a game. So, what moves are made? That's going to determine, I think, their ceiling this year. But I would say closer to the team we saw the first couple of months, but not quite there because they've exposed some real flaws this last month.
I love one of the things that I love doing is you're on ESPN.com. I go to a team, regardless of the sport. You go to the Yankees or any of these teams, you're like, oh, okay, here are the leaders in all these respective categories. I'm like, oh, here's a little bit of this guy, a little bit of this guy. When I go to the Yankees page for the leaders among all these things, batting average, Aaron Judge, home runs, Aaron Judge, RBIs, Aaron Judge, on base percentage, Aaron Judge. Hits, Aaron Judge. There's a lot of Aaron Judge here. It's been an Aaron Judge-y season, and that seems to happen a lot there with the Yankees, Emmanuel.
It does, and every year you wonder, okay, well, he's done it at such a historic clip for so long. Is there going to be any sort of taper off? Like, let's say Judge came out and hit 35, 40 home runs this year, which he's already surpassed, by the way. But
Right, yeah.
let's say he had a 35 homer season. That's a great year for basically anybody. And I wondered one of these next couple of years after 2022 when he set the American League and Yankee home run record, like, okay, will this start to maybe taper off? Not in a bad way, but
Mm-hmm.
people just don't hit 60 home runs every year. But he one-ups himself every single season, which I think speaks to the all-time greatness that we're watching. And everyone talks about taking it for granted. I really don't think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people understand the gravity of what they're watching. It's just been in such a casual way this year. There hasn't been 1 week or 2 weeks that I can point to. Normally you can. There's not a week or two that I could point to and say, Judge carried the team. Judge was tearing the cover off the ball. He is so great at this stage that he'll just casually get his couple of hits a night. He'll hit 3 home runs a week, but they won't be in a row. And you look up, now we're coming up on the trade deadline. He's almost at 40 home runs and he's hitting 350 on the year. That's the greatness now. It's low key. And that to me, it's unexplainable. I don't know how to describe it because in recent years, there was a week or two where I could say, wow, he was playing at a ridiculous level that he hadn't played at for a while. He got off to a slow start last year. There's been no slow start this year. It's just been consistently throughout. And that to me is the true mark of the great player, great all-around player he's become.
Well, you go low key. I'm going to go high key here. So Aaron Judge has been breaking records all over the place. And then I remember it was semi recently. You may even remember the specific occasion. So the media comes to him after the game. They're like, "Whoa, you just broke the 50th record in a row. What, Aaron? Huh? Thoughts?" He's like, "We lost a game," and it's so unique. There are people, we're in a 2025 society, Emmanuel, where, oh, selfies, pictures, me. I'm a big T.O. guy. I love me some me. Okay, that's a great quote. Get some popcorn. Aaron Judge, he's breaking all these records, but it seems like, I don't know if you could give us a sense. Like, I just like the cut of his jib. And he just, he seems atypical when you look at some of the other superstars, some of the biggest stars of all these other sports. They don't seem to sometimes, and I don't want to categorize everybody, but there's a lot of people looking at themselves in the mirror. It doesn't seem like that's Aaron Judge, at least for, glorifying himself with all of the accolades he seemingly has achieved.
Yeah, well, this goes beyond the field. Like you had asked about the categories, and there's something crazy to what he's doing statistically this year and the consistency of his play. But the human Aaron Judge, from the start, he's been larger than life. You're talking about a 6'7" behemoth who you think could be playing tight end in the NFL, and he's playing right field for the New York Yankees, and not only playing it, but he's better than anybody else. Like he's the best player in the world, and he embodies himself everything you could imagine in a Yankee ambassador, a Yankee captain, a ambassador for the sport, not just of the New York Yankees. That's Aaron Judge. He is a living embodiment of that. And it's amazing to watch because you always wonder, like he gets the Jeter comparisons in terms of leadership and captain, and they're by no means the same person, but you naturally get that because of this era and a generation of Yankee fans that grew up with Jeter and now get the privilege to watch Aaron Judge. So naturally those comparisons come about. And you have to understand how rare it is to have the full package of somebody who is going to go to the Hall of Fame, is one of the best players of all time, but also checks every box on that other side of things. And it's all genuine. It's all natural. It's not like he went to school on how to do this. And if he did go to school, then he's doing an awfully good job at it anyway. So it's amazing to watch. He checks every box from on the field to off the field to the human being that he is to how he's revered in that clubhouse and across the league. And that's another element of why we shouldn't take it for granted.
If he did go to a school for that, there probably would have been Fordham University. Suck it, man, child.
There we go.
Anywho, yeah, there we go. Let's work that in when we can. Why don't we do this? We'll hear a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll be back with more Emmanuel Berbari action here on the Man Child Show with Boy Green Digital.
Cadillac certified pre-owned vehicles, exclusively available in Central New York at your participating Cadillac dealer, Crest Cadillac. Each one must meet high standards and receives a 172-point inspection, along with a 1-year unlimited mile warranty after the original warranty expires. Come into Crest Cadillac in Syracuse today for exceptional offers on Cadillac certified pre-owned models. CrestCadillac.com.
Again, I'm here, Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green, the Man Child Show with Boy Green Digital. We're here with our good buddy, Emmanuel Berbari, here on the program, Fordham University's finest here on the show. And let me ask you, as we continue our Yankees coverage, we'll get into MLB trade deadline chatter, all that coming up too. What do you make of the job of Aaron Boone? And as we're here and sort of course, assessing the history of what he's been able to do as the guy, and now we're here. What do you make here as we're here in the middle of 2025?
Well, all he's missing is the championship. If you look at his resume and totality, if he had one already, it would be a far different dialogue. It really
that's for
would.
Sure.
Any criticism and whenever things go wrong, and trust me, I understand, like, naturally the manager is going to get some blame, whether it's his fault or not. When things go south and there's questions about the viability of this team and the season and their ceiling, it's going to come down to the manager. It does in every market, and that's just exacerbated in New York and under the pressure cooker of the New York Yankees and the bright lights of this stage and this city. So I understand it, but all that's missing is a championship. Once that's checked off, we have a far different discussion about Aaron Boone. And I think right now the frustration is the culmination of a lot of the issues that have persisted in his time here that hasn't resulted in a championship. So when you look at fundamental flaws, or around the same time of the year, the team starts to enter a rut. And then there's a question of, all right, well, can this team, not trade deadline ads, not outside additions, can this team get it done? Or if it was just left alone, let's say there was no move to be made at the trade deadline, would this team recover? Would it? Because last year I remember Jazz Chisholm walked in the door right at the trade deadline. There was a different energy. And that team needed a little bit of an infusion. And then they had a jump. Then they fell off a little bit. Then they got hot at the right time, September into October, and ran through the American League. I think there's well-deserved frustration about some of the recurring issues. I don't attribute that. I don't put that at Aaron Boone's feet. I just don't. I think the role of the modern day manager is severely overstated unless there's something catastrophic that goes on. Aaron Boone checks all the boxes. We talk about checking the boxes with Judge. A New York Yankees manager in the year 2025, there's really no drama that goes on. All the players respect him. All the players play for him. The team is a playoff team essentially every year. And he's just missing the championship. Like, I can't defend him in that regard, but it's also really hard to win a championship. It's harder to win a championship in this day and age. And I think he's actually, you look at the rosters he's been given outside of last year, I think he's overachieved, with some of the rosters he's been given. I do. So last year, I thought was the first time he was given the best roster in the American League in his tenure here since 2018.
Yeah, right.
That was the first time. We think Houston. We think the year they lost to Boston. We think about a couple of the exits. Last year, I thought was the first time he was given the best roster in the American League, and he won the American League. So let's see what happens this year. Like, if they don't win the American League this year, it's going to be a different conversation. But I think last year was the first time on paper they entered the season with the best roster in the American League, and he won the American League. So let's see where they are at the end of this year.
So let me just say this as the follow-up. Do you think that some of the criticisms that Aaron Boone has received are unfounded?
I do. I think, like when somebody doesn't hustle out of the box and then post-game he says, oh, I only bench guys for not hustling. And that's basically paraphrasing what he said.
No, I understand.
That's where he runs into a little bit of trouble sometimes with the fan base. Okay. Is people look at it like, okay, well, you didn't sit him down. And you're saying you bench guys for not hustling. And I count one time over his tenure here where he sat somebody down for not hustling, and that was Glaber. I remember after a long time of mental lapses, if you will, he eventually sat him down. I'd say those criticisms are maybe founded, but also we're taking what he says a little bit too at face value, and we're looking to gotcha at times. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is unfounded because this season's an open book. I don't think we have answers on what this Yankee team is yet. And last year they were in the World Series. A lot of times I think they have not had the best team in the American League, and Houston was definitively better, and Boston was definitively better in 2018, his first year. I thought if you look at postseason judgment, 2018 was the one year where I thought he probably got outmanaged in a postseason series. 2018 against Alex Cora and the Red Sox. He was a rookie manager, and I thought he got outmanaged. Outside of that, I think he's held up his end of the bargain in the playoffs. He did not have the team to get it done. Last year, I thought he had the team to get it done, but they had some serious fundamental flaws that were exposed by the Dodgers in the World Series, which is why that needs to change and be addressed by the trade deadline. Yeah, I think some of it's unfounded. It's like anything. There's no black or white concrete answer.
Of course not.
I think he gets some fair criticism and some unfair criticism, and we're going to have to see how the season winds up.
All right, you brought up the trade deadline. We've been teasing it forever. Let's get to it. What do the Yankees need, in your opinion, Emmanuel Berbari?
I think they are looking at three areas. They're looking at third base, starting pitching, bullpen help. And I'm not sure if you can get them all done because there are so many teams on the fringe who's buyers, who's sellers, who's actually going to part with pieces, who's rushing to help the New York Yankees. Probably nobody. So those prices are going to be driven up. And this is the case year after year. We have the same conversation about match and fit and where they can get the job done in certain areas. I would say if I had to prioritize, third base is getting a lot of the talk, and Eugenio Suarez, can they acquire him and plug that hole? I go pitching. I don't look at third base. Now, does that mean I think Oswald Peraza is the everyday third base after the trade deadline? No, I don't think that's the case, but could it be if you want to double down on your pitching? Absolutely. I think pitching depth, especially some of the injuries they've taken in the starting rotation with Schmidt, in the bullpen with, let's say, Cruz and with Leiter, there is a need there. And I look across the American League just in terms of repeating as American League champions. You got to go beyond 1 and 2 in your rotation. Cole and Fried, well, not Cole this year, but Fried and Rodon have been heavily relied upon at every turn, and we almost take them for granted as if nothing could go wrong in that area. We shouldn't take it for granted, but that speaks to the need to shore up the 3 and 4 spots in your rotation, because I think other teams you're going to be competing with for the American League pennant have those answers, and the Yankees don't right now. So I would say pitching over third base, but ideally you get both done.
Who are some other names you have circled? You mentioned one there. Who else like targets for the Yankees at the deadline?
I would be looking at, you're not going to acquire a frontline starter. I don't think that's the nature of this market, nor should you, because Fried and Rodon are frontline starters.
Mm-hmm.
I look at, Merrill Kelly in Arizona. He's on an expiring contract. He's a veteran. He's pitched in big games. Charlie Morton fits that bill, even more so in the pitching in big games area. I think Charlie Morton got off to a slow start this year in Baltimore. He's cheaper. He's on an expiring contract. He's 40 years old, but he's had a much better run lately, and he knows what it's like. He's pitched big games against the Yankees. He picked one for them. So I look at those type of guys who could fit perfectly into that number 3, number 4 starter in the playoffs type of mold. And I think you add 1 or 2 of them, and then you add to the bullpen, because a lot of guys with the Leiter and Cruz injuries have slid up a role, and they would be relied upon every single day if the Yankees were winning, but they've been inconsistent, so we don't necessarily see them every single day. They are so attached to a Luke Weaver or a Devin Williams. Like, those guys have to perform, or this bullpen would not be working. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be flowing right now. So I look at relief help is probably more 1 or 2 names, like a David Bednar with Pittsburgh.
Right.
Is one name I think of. You hear about a lot of the Rockies relievers tossed around.
Sure.
You also know that the Yankees might pull a rabbit out of a hat and bring in somebody we're not talking about, and they have a really good track record with relief pitching and identifying the right names. Think a Clay Holmes of many in recent years. So I would go with Morton and Kelly on the starting pitching front, and then relief pitching, it's probably going to be somebody we don't expect, but expect that guy to work out.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds pretty good. Let's wrap here. So for ESPN, they categorized a lot of the teams into tiers. They ranked them into tiers heading into the second half of the season. ESPN did this big piece. And tier 1 is the big 6. There's these teams that they categorize in their own sort of level here. It's the Tigers, Dodgers, Cubs, Astros, Phillies, and Mets. They're the top tier in the top 6. And then the next tier down, that's where we find the New York Yankees in this ESPN categorization here of established contenders. The Yankees are in this group, the Brewers are in this group, the Blue Jays are in this group, and that's it. And then we start getting into other tiers. Do you think that is fairly categorized as we head into the second half of the season?
Interesting. I think it's fair because the Yankees are, as we were talking about, an open book based on their first couple of months and the way they played in the last month. But I think putting a team like, I have a couple problems there, and it doesn't have to do with the Yankees.
Okay. Yeah, lay them on us. All right.
Putting the Mets in that first tier when, like, the Yankees and Mets, when you think about their seasons, they're sort of in the same breath. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that manifest itself in the 2 Subway Series meetings where they split 3-3. Mm-hmm. And the Brewers are right now the best team in baseball. And I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. They won 11 straight. They got the best record in baseball. Yeah. They have a lot of the elements of, I understand they're a smaller market, but they have a lot of elements of what you want in a World Series caliber team. So it has less to do with the Yankees because they got to earn their way back into that top.
Sure.
And they would admit that. Like, they got to show that they're more the team for the first couple of months and the team we've seen the last month. But having the Mets in and not in the Yankees tier, and then having the Brewers on the outside looking in, I understand it's a recent development with Milwaukee.
Of course.
They've been creeping up on the Cubs for quite a while after their slow start, which started at Yankee Stadium. The Brewers got swept that opening weekend and basically got embarrassed and started 0-4. Now they're the best team in baseball. So, I'll take those ratings with a grain of salt, but I think from a Yankee standpoint, they'd say, like let us prove our way back into the top tier.
Okay. Well, Emmanuel, it was fun catching up, finally getting to see you visually. Been seeing you on the tube, and now we got you over here, the Man Shot Show, Boy Green Digital. What a fun time, man. Congrats on all the success. Go Fordham. Again, shove that over in Lurch's big fat face. And, it's been a real treat, buddy. So we'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always great to see you, man.